I told my friends I was over him. I said it like a fact, like weather. He's out of my life. I'd smile, sip my coffee, pretend my hands didn't shake a little when someone mentioned his name. And maybe for a while, I believed it too. But that was before last Tuesday. Before I opened my door and found him standing there, holding the one thing I'd left behind, the sweater I always wore to bed when I missed him. It still smelled like his cologne. And God help me, so did he. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there. Like he didn't trust his voice yet. I should have closed the door. I should have laughed or rolled my eyes or done something that made it clear this chapter was finished. But instead I just stood there too. Frozen. Like my body remembered something my mind had worked so hard to forget. "Hey," he said finally. That one word, just hey. And suddenly I was right back in his passenger seat, windows down, music loud, his hand on my thigh like it belonged there. I looked down at the sweater in his hands. I hadn't even realized I left it behind. Funny how something so small can feel like everything. "You left this," he said. His voice was low, like he didn't want to disturb something between us. Or maybe like he was afraid it wasn't there anymore. I reached out slowly. Not for the sweater, but for the part of me that still wanted to touch him. But I stopped. Right there in the doorway, with the cold air slipping in between us like a warning. "Thanks," I whispered, finally taking it from him. Our fingers brushed. It shouldn't have meant anything. But it did. Because when I looked up, he wasn't looking at the sweater. He was looking at me. The way he used to, back when things were still soft and easy and new. And I knew right then. This wasn't just a drop-off. He came back for more than just a forgotten sweater. And that's when he said the one thing I wasn't ready to hear. "You look exactly the same." That's what he said. Like it was a compliment. But also something else. Like he'd been hoping I wouldn't look the same so it would be easier. I laughed, but it caught in my throat. "I could say the same about you." Which was a lie. He looked older. Not in a bad way, in that way heartbreak matures a face. His eyes had always been soft brown, but now they held something deeper. Tired maybe. Or honest. There was a silence between us. That kind of silence that feels like it's waiting for permission to become something else. And then stupidly I opened the door wider. "Do you want to come in?" The second I said it, I regretted it. But he nodded. And that was that. He walked in like it still felt familiar, which hurt more than it should have. He noticed the picture frames had changed. The couch was new. I had a plant now, dying of course. But everything else? Still me. Still the girl who cried on that kitchen floor when he left. Still the one who memorized the sound of his car pulling away. He sat down on the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure how long he'd be allowed to stay. I stayed standing, holding the sweater like a shield against my chest. "So," I said, trying to sound casual, "what have you been up to?" He looked at me for a second. And then with a shrug, soft and sad, he said, "Missing you." Just like that. No lead up. No build. No smile to soften it. Just those two words, naked and brutal in the space between us. I couldn't breathe. Not in a dramatic way. Just a quiet pause where my lungs forgot what to do. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear that from," he added quickly. But I had to say it. I couldn't keep pretending like it didn't matter. Like you didn't matter. I turned away, pretending to fix the pillows. Mostly because if I looked at him I knew I'd cry. And I swore I wouldn't cry in front of him again. But then he said something that cracked the part of me I tried so hard to protect. "I still dream about you. And every time I wake up, it's worse than the last." And just like that, the room didn't feel like mine anymore. Felt like ours again. And I didn't know if I wanted that, or if I was just too tired to fight it. But I knew one thing for sure. I should have never let him in. Because now I didn't know how to ask him to leave. He sat there, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like it held all the things he never said. I stayed by the counter, the sweater still clutched in my arms, warm in all the wrong ways. "It was never just the sweater, was it?" I asked, my voice barely there. He shook his head once. Slow. "No. I just needed a reason to see you." I hated how much I wanted that to be true. I hated how much of me was already slipping. Because here's the thing. I had rebuilt my life around his absence. Carefully. Quietly. One deep breath at a time. I had rearranged furniture, changed my sheets, blocked his number, avoided every coffee shop he loved. And now? One knock, one stupid sweater. And he was sitting on my couch like no time had passed. "I thought you were happy," I said, not looking at him. "You seemed happy." He smiled, but not the kind that reaches the eyes. "Instagram happy," he said, and I hated that I understood exactly what that meant. He ran a hand through his hair, leaned back, exhaled like he'd been holding it in since the day he left. "Do you ever think about what we were?" he asked. His voice dropped when he said we, like he was afraid it might shatter. And I wanted to say no. I wanted to be the strong one, but I couldn't lie. "Every time I changed the sheets," I whispered. He looked at me then, really looked. Like he was trying to memorize my face all over again. Like he wasn't sure if this was real, or just another one of those dreams he told me about. I walked over slowly, unsure if it was a mistake with every step I took. I sat down across from him, knees barely touching. Close enough to feel the heat. Far enough to pretend we weren't still drowning in it. "Why now?" I asked. He hesitated. Then, softer than I expected. "Because I couldn't keep pretending someone else would ever feel like home." And something in me cracked. Because I knew exactly what he meant. But I also knew what came after those words. The hope. The unraveling. So I leaned in, my voice shaking. "And what if I've built walls too high for you now?" He looked at me, quiet, steady, sincere. "Then I'll climb them." And just like that, I remembered why I fell for him in the first place. But I also remembered how it felt when he let go. And I didn't know which memory was stronger. I should have asked him to leave. Every second he stayed, the air thickened. Not tense, not yet, just heavy. Like the room knew something I wasn't ready to admit. He was watching me in that quiet way he always had. Like he could hear thoughts I hadn't spoken yet. I wanted to say something. Anything. But all I could think was, this is dangerous. This kind of closeness after that kind of ending. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff and pretending the wind doesn't want to take you. "I'm not asking for anything," he said suddenly. His voice was low, calm, almost careful. "I just wanted to see you. Hear your voice. Remember what it felt like to be near you without all the noise." I swallowed. Hard. Because I remembered the noise. All of it. The shouting in the hallway. The slammed doors. The silence that followed. Louder than anything we'd ever said. And then that final night. The way he kissed me like he already knew it would be the last time. How he held me like a thief saying goodbye to something he shouldn't have touched. I could still taste that night if I let myself. "I don't know if I can go back there," I said softly. He looked at me with something between guilt and hope. "I'm not asking you to," he replied. But I never stopped wishing I could. I let that hang in the air between us. Like smoke. Then, without thinking, I reached out and brushed his hand. Just a touch. Nothing more. But it changed everything. 'Cause I felt it. That electric, aching pulse that had always existed between us. Still alive. Still humming. And so did he. I could see it in his breath. He looked at our hands barely touching. Then looked up at me with eyes that had seen every version of me. The laughing one, the broken one, the one who begged him not to leave. And for a second, I let the old version of us drift to the surface. The version that still danced in dim kitchens at midnight, barefoot, half drunk on love. "I missed this," he whispered. "Not just you. This. The way we were when the world didn't get in the way." I wanted to believe that was still possible. But believing meant risking everything again. And I didn't know if my heart could survive another goodbye. So I asked the only question I could. "What happens if we do this? And it breaks us worse the second time?" His answer was quiet. Immediate. "Then at least I'll know I didn't run from something I still felt in my bones." And I didn't have words for that. Just a silence that said I feel it too. But what terrified me most was how badly I wanted to fall again. Even knowing how much it hurt to land, we sat there for what felt like hours. Not speaking. Not moving. Just listening to the kind of silence that's full of breath and memory. His fingers were so close to mine. Too close. And somewhere between that almost touch and the sound of the rain starting outside, we forgot how to be careful. It happened slowly. The way it always did with us. A look that lingered too long. A breath held for just a second more than it should have been. I shifted slightly, and his knee brushed mine. That tiny accidental contact that somehow felt more intimate than anything else in the world. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. I could feel my pulse in places I hadn't felt it in months. That familiar flutter that always warned me he was too close, and I was too willing. He leaned forward a little. Just enough for me to feel the warmth of him again. I used to think I knew how to forget you, I said, voice barely audible. But all I ever really did was wait. His eyes searched mine like he was looking for permission, or forgiveness. Maybe both. I don't want to be a mistake again, I added. You weren't, he said. Immediately. Firm. I was just too selfish to know what I had until I lost it. And that broke something in me. Because when someone finally says the thing you needed to hear months ago, doesn't heal you, it just reopens the part you tried to bury. His hand moved toward mine, slow, tentative, and finally it landed. Warm. Steady. Our fingers wove together like they remembered what they used to be. Like they didn't believe in time passing. My breath caught. I didn't lean in. I didn't pull away. I just let myself be still in it. Because part of me, the part that still slept in his old t-shirts, that still flinched when I heard his favorite song in public, that part never stopped waiting for this. He leaned closer. His forehead almost touched mine. I don't know if we can fix it, he whispered. But I'd rather fall trying than spend another night pretending I'm okay. His voice cracked on that last word. And I felt it everywhere. So I closed my eyes. Let my head tilt forward just enough to rest against his. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just two people remembering what it felt like to belong somewhere. And in that moment, the past didn't matter. Only the way his hand held mine like he was afraid to let go again. But deep down I knew, if this continued, I wouldn't be able to stop it. And the next choice, it wouldn't be small. He said my name like it was a secret. Soft, careful, like if he said it too loud I'd disappear. And maybe I would have. Because everything in me was shaking. Not visibly, not enough for him to notice, but inside, it felt like my whole body was made of glass. I've missed saying it, he whispered, his forehead still resting against mine. I used to say it out loud when I was alone. Like if I said it enough, you'd come back. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because I'd done the same thing. Whispered his name into my pillow, into the dark, into nothing. Like some kind of prayer. And now here we were. Close enough to kiss. Far enough to still lie to ourselves that this wasn't about to happen. He tilted his head the slightest bit and I felt it, that pull. That gravity that lived between our mouths. The kind of pull that makes people ruin everything. I don't know what this is, I breathed. It doesn't have to be anything yet, he said. But we both knew that was a lie. Because we didn't do halfway. We never had. When we loved, it was all-consuming. Messy, reckless, beautifully destructive. And part of me was still trying to protect the quiet I'd finally found in his absence. But the other part? The part that missed the sound of his laugh when I was brushing my teeth. The way he'd squeeze my hand twice when he thought I was falling asleep. That part was screaming, "Don't stop this." So I didn't. I leaned in, just enough to feel his breath against my lips. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But the almost was worse than the real thing. Because it was a cliff. And I was already leaning forward. I'm scared, I said quietly, my lips barely moving. Of you. Of this. Of what it'll cost. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes dark and steady. Then let's be scared together. And somehow, that was the most honest thing either of us had ever said. Because this wasn't just about missing someone. It was about coming back to the place that broke you. And hoping this time it holds. But even as I let my fingers slide along the side of his neck, even as he closed his eyes at my touch, there was one question I couldn't stop asking myself. If I let this happen, how many pieces will I be in when it ends again? I don't remember who kissed who first. I just remember the pause right before it happened. That breathless, trembling pause. Where the world felt suspended. Where I could still turn away. And I didn't. I let myself fall. And he caught me. The way he always used to. Like he knew exactly how I broke. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't urgent or wild. It was slow. Careful. Like we were relearning each other's mouths. Like every brush of lips carried 1,000 unsaid apologies. His hands moved to my face, holding me like something fragile. Like he was afraid to press too hard in case I vanished. And maybe I would've if he hadn't said what he said next. "I've been kissing strangers," he whispered against my skin, trying to forget what this felt like. His confession hit deeper than the kiss, because I knew that feeling, the way your body can betray your heart just to feel something, the way loneliness becomes a habit, and pretending becomes a kind of survival. I didn't speak. I just pulled him closer. Not for comfort, not for forgiveness, but because part of me still belonged to him, and I was too tired to pretend it didn't. We didn't rush. It wasn't like before, back when we were younger and foolish and everything burned too fast. Now it was quieter. Still desperate, but in a way that came from remembering, not discovering. The way his hands traced the curve of my back. The way my breath caught when he kissed my shoulder like it was a promise. Every movement was slow. Every sigh felt like letting go. But not of pain. Of distance. Of pretending we were over this. He pulled me into his lap without saying a word, and I didn't resist. Because being this close to him didn't feel wrong. It felt inevitable. Like gravity. Like coming home. We stayed like that for a long time, tangled, quiet, wrapped in the kind of silence that makes you forget where the hurt ends. And for the first time in a long time I didn't feel cold. But as his hand rested over my heart, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't a goodbye anymore. It was a beginning. And I didn't know if I was ready. But I knew I wasn't ready to lose him again. Not like that. Not now. Not after this. We fell asleep on the couch. His arms wrapped around me like nothing had ever broken. Like we hadn't spent months pretending we didn't miss each other. Like we were still that version of us before the silence, before the fights, before the fall. And for a few hours we were. When I woke up it was still dark. The kind of dark where time feels uncertain. His chest rose and fell beneath my cheek, steady, warm. Familiar in a way that made my heart ache. I could have stayed there forever. But forever had always been the problem. Because this wasn't simple. He hadn't magically become someone new. And I hadn't forgotten what it felt like to cry myself to sleep because love wasn't enough. So I slid out of his arms. Quiet. Careful. Not because I didn't want to stay, but because I needed to breathe without him for a minute. I stood by the window, sweater in my hands, the one he brought back like a peace offering. The same one I used to wear on nights I swore I was over him. It still smelled like him. And that's when I heard him behind me. "You always go to the window when you're thinking," he said softly. I turned. He was sitting up now, blanket falling off his shoulders, eyes sleepy and raw. "I didn't want to wake you." "You didn't," he said. "I never really slept." I didn't say anything. Because what do you say when the person who left is back in your bed, looking at you like you're the only thing that makes sense? He stood and walked over. Wrapped his arms around me from behind, that quiet kind of embrace, no urgency, just gravity. And then against the curve of my neck, he whispered, "I don't know what happens next. I just know I want it to be with you." My eyes stung. Because God, I wanted that too. But I also wanted something more than want. I turned around, looked him dead in the eyes. "I need more than I did before. I need honesty. I need softness. I need to feel safe with you." "You will," he said. No hesitation. "You have my heart. All of it. This time I know what I'm doing." And for once, I believed him. Not because the words were perfect, but because his voice trembled. And maybe that's how love survives. Not with grand gestures or flawless timing, but with the quiet courage to return to the place you broke and rebuild something softer, something real. We didn't promise forever. We just promised today. And in that moment, wrapped in his arms, wrapped in the scent of a sweater, I could finally let go. Today was enough. Because he came back. And I did too.